So first question, and what's the historical origin of the Judaism?
Historical origin of Judaism. Judaism begins after the revelation of God on Mount Sinai. After the Israelites left Egypt, after the time of slavery, and passed through the desert on their way to the land of Canaan, at Mount Sinai, when there was a revelation from God, that's where God gave the commandments and the Bible to Moses, to the Jewish people, and that's officially where Judaism starts. Yeah.
So second question, who are the founders and main leaders?
The founders. Well, I would say the first one to discover that there is one God, monotheism, that would be Abraham. We should say that he is the founder of modern Judaism at the end. He is the root of it. That's where it all begins. In a time where it was all polytheistic and there were many gods and deities, he was the one who realized that there is one God and began to communicate and connect with that one God. Passed it down to his son Isaac, and then to Jacob, and then Jacob passed it down to his children, the 12 tribes, and that's who would be considered the founders of Judaism.
What is the sacred book and doctrine book?
The sacred book and doctrine book is comprised of 5 sections. In Hebrew we call it the Chumash, and in English it's known as the Old Testament. I believe in most New Testaments today, the Old Testament is there, where you have the first book, Genesis, and the last book would be Deuteronomy. Those are the first and the fifth books. And that's our official doctrine. Yeah.
Okay. How does the Judaism see God's mystery?
Mystery.
Yeah.
Mystery of God?
Yeah.
I don't think that we view God as a mystery. We view everything as coming from God. Everything is divine fate and providence. And we even believe that when it comes to free will, the only free will which we actually have control over, the results of, is from minute to minute, if we are refraining from sin, or if we are participating in a positive or in a beneficial act, a merit. That's the only things that we really have control over. Everything else, how long we will live, if we will be married, if we will have children, what kind of life we will have, what kind of money we will make, and where we will go tomorrow and today. We believe that all things are in the hands of God. Well, actually you can consider that to be a mystery then, because if everything is in His hands, then it's kind of a mystery to us. But that's what faith is all about. It's about believing that it's all in His hands, and He is all good, and God is all good, and no matter what comes our way through His manifestation, it's all good, and it's not a mystery because it just unfolds every minute, just like this interview right now.
Fifth question. How does the Judaism see the beginning and end of the world and life?
You recording already?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to think about it?
No. The beginning of life starts with Adam and Eve, Garden of Eden. Like in the first chapter in Genesis, in the beginning of Genesis, on the 6th day, God created man, named him Adam. Adam in Hebrew is Adam, and just as Adam was created from the earth. The earth is actually, in Hebrew we call the earth, the ground is called Adamah, and that's why his name was Adam. And that's where life began, with him and with Eve. And then Adam got translated to Adam in English over the centuries. That's where we consider the beginning of life. Of course there was, and I'm talking about human life, of course there was also cavemen and prehistoric man and Neanderthals, dinosaurs, and a lot of life even before man. But as far as modern man, with the intellect, with the power to make decisions, having sympathy, feeling guilt, being able to speak a proper language, having a soul. That's really the essence of Adam, was that God blew into Adam's nostrils the air of God. If you look in the book, and that's actually considered the soul. So Adam is the first creation with a divine soul as a component of him, and that's where we believe life for people started. And where does life end? It's a good question. It doesn't say in our Bible where life ends. There are many. That's also considered a mystery, but we leave that in God's hands as well. I believe, my personal opinion is, I believe life will not end, but will evolve to a different level of being, something outside of our five senses, and that there will always be life on some kind of level, not necessarily physical where we are. And I could be wrong. Where does life end? Many opinions are when Messiah will come. And when will Messiah come? There are many books written about it. There are many signs. There are many. We have a book called the Talmud, which was written in Babylon during our exile from the first temple about 2,000 years ago. In there, many of what was previously oral law finally was being written down in this Talmud. And in this Talmud book, they discuss signs of when the end of the world will come. So there are various opinions, and we will know it only when it comes.
Sixth question, what's the belief after death?
Okay. Oh, it's rolling.
Yeah.
The belief after death. Okay. These are very, very heavy questions. The belief after death is that we are now in the world of the body, and this is where our bodies come into life, and when our time ends, our bodies are buried here. Our skeletons remain after, of course, decomposing, but the soul never dies. When our bodies die here in the physical world on planet Earth, our souls, which is like what God blew into Adam, it's been passed down to us genetically since then. Our souls leave us, they ascend, they go to different worlds, higher levels. The soul then goes through purification processes, which some books say are very painful, but in a spiritual sense, but painful but cleansing. And after the soul is cleansed properly, it kind of has to go like through a school almost, and needs to graduate different cleansing processes. And after it's cleansed, it realizes its final place in the other worlds. We usually point up, but in the next world there is no up and there is no down, and there is no seeing and there is no hearing. It's something that we cannot really comprehend. But physical life ends here when we die, but the soul always continues and continues on and has a place to always go. We believe that the ending place for the soul is a world of eternal bliss. And that's about it.
What are the main principles and thoughts?
Main principles and thoughts of Judaism? The Sabbath, which is a Saturday, is where we observe the Sabbath, which means we refrain from any kind of work. It's a day of rest, and we do that in commemoration of the creation of the world, where after the sixth day, which is Friday, after the sixth day, God also rested and refrained from any creation. In the same way, on Saturdays, on our Shabbat, our Sabbath, we also refrain from creation, which means shutting off or turning on any electricity. That would be a creation. Telephones, televisions, driving, almost everything. Just detaching from any kind of creating. It's a day of rest, it's a day for family, a day for family unity, and also community and prayer. And for us, the Sabbath is the day where everything ends and everything starts. We always start new after the Sabbath. Beyond that, we have a lot of dietary laws, kosher, many restrictions on what to eat, what not to eat, which are mentioned in the Old Testament. I won't go into it now, it's a little bit boring. We have 613 do's and don'ts, 365 things that we are supposed to do, and 248 things that we are not supposed to do, which we don't have time for today, but those are our expectations. Yeah.
So, how Judaism explains the evil?
Evil. Evil is, you can first see an example of evil with the snake in the Garden of Eden. Evil can be explained in many ways. It's temptation, temptation to do the wrong thing, the hurtful thing. Can be to yourself, to other people. Obviously, Judaism has many books over the centuries written about how to refrain and stay away from evil, precautions that a person can take. Evil is viewed as destructive. Evil can manifest itself in many ways. Jealousy is evil, hatred is evil, prejudice, discrimination is evil, murder obviously, and stealing are evil. These are all evils. They exist out there all the time. We see it on television, we read it in newspapers, we hear about it in the streets, and it can get into our minds sometimes and play around with us and make us imagine things which could be potentially dangerous to even begin to imagine. But there are many precautions which help to stay away from those things. The more good a person does, coming out from them, the more good they're actually filling up inside of them, and that serves as a protection from even beginning to think about anything evil. And evil does exist out there. You need to be alert. Evil is always waiting behind the next hidden corner to jump out at you, to flare your anger, to put fear in you, to instill hatred in you. And as long as you're aware and on guard and follow certain precautions, then you have a good chance of withstanding evil.
So, what are the main habits, rituals, feast, and praise?
Habits, rituals. Sabbath is the first ritual again, which starts on Friday evening at sundown. We light candles, then we go to our synagogues to pray, and we come back home after, we sit down and have a family dinner, we rest. The following day is Sabbath all day long again until the first stars come out Saturday night. We have our rituals of eating, which we discussed shortly earlier. We pray 3 times a day, in the morning, in the afternoon, and again in the evening. I could share with you some rituals I have here. This is called a kippah, which is customary for us to wear all the time. Rituals, yeah. I can show you what, this is what we pray with in the morning. This is called a talit. It's a garment. It unfolds. It's big. It's got 4 strings on each corner. 1, 2, 3, 4. And they represent the 4 corners of the world. And we believe that God is, of course, everywhere. And when we pray, we bring those strings together to remember that that God is everywhere and He is uniting us also. And then we have something here called tefillin. These are all from the Old Testament. I think they call this in English phylacteries, if I'm not mistaken. This is one that unravels and we tie it on our arm. And then we have a second one which we unravel and it goes on our head. It's like a black box. And basically the meaning of this is, as we all know, like the mind and the heart are always in a constant conflict with each other. There's the logic and there's the emotion. And we wear these every morning to try to bring balance between the two for the day ahead. That's the simple meaning of it anyway. It's very deep. We don't always need to understand why we do what we do. We believe that it's written in the Old Testament, and just because it's written, that's what faith is about. It's about taking something upon yourself, believing that it is the right thing for you, and not necessarily having to understand why we do everything. I think it's a special level of faith. You're entitled to always ask why, and there are many answers out there. And rituals, we have so many holidays during the year. They basically commemorate things in history. We have our own New Year's, we have our own fast days, we have our own celebration holidays. We have a lot of holidays. My children miss many days of school and they love it, between the American and the Jewish holidays. That's about it for now.
What is Judaism's posture about other religions?
About other religions, again, everything is from God, and obviously God wants these other religions to be around. We absolutely respect all other religions. We don't persecute. We don't fight. We don't argue. We respect. Something else I wanted to say about the other religions. We believe that each religion is customized for the nation respectively that need it. So they have what they need, we have what we need. We don't preach hatred against it at all, and we also don't try to go out and convert. We don't have missionaries to try to convert other people to Judaism. In fact, when somebody else wants to convert to become Jewish, by law, we need to turn them away. And if they come a second time, our law is to turn them away again. And if they come back a third time, then at that point we will accept and begin to go through a process of conversion. Because we have a joke, we always say, we're not missionaries because you don't want to be Jewish. You wouldn't want to be Jewish. There's so many things you must do and you should not do, many restrictions, a lot of sacrifice of time. I think it's a very arduous religion with many technicalities, and you gotta really want to be Jewish. And you need to know a lot about it before you think about joining.
What are the main prejudices Jewish people suffer?
Prejudice that we suffer. I mean, there's so many. There's the popular ones. I think most people think that we are greedy with money, that we are cheap and not giving people. And it's actually the truth is really the opposite. Our life is all about giving, charity, which I didn't mention anywhere before, I forgot to mention. But life is all about giving. It's a big principle of Judaism, and it comes from the time of Abraham, when he had guests come over and hosted them. 3 angels passed by, Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael. We take that event as an example of how to lead life. All the money, whatever money we make, for example, we give 10% automatically goes to charity. Any opportunity that arises, a homeless person, a family in need, we always do something. We participate along the way, because we don't take money with us when we die, and there's nothing better you can do with your money within reason while you're alive than to give it where it can be used, instead of just letting it sit idle. People think many things about us. We've been the scapegoat for many things over the centuries. They claim that we killed Jesus Christ, which is an argument, or you should really learn history properly before making that kind of statement. But that belief bred so much hatred over the centuries that until today we've been the victims of so many massacres and holocausts, Spanish Inquisitions, in pogroms. They blamed the diseases on us, and plagues, Black Death, everywhere. In Poland, in Russia, in Hungary, all over Europe, in Germany, in Italy, in Greece, in America, in Israel, and wherever we are the scapegoat. There's a lot of pain always in life, in history, and when people have pain, it can be like a financial strain, or a political strain, or a communal strain. People didn't have healthy methods of taking care of their own problems, and they usually like to, blame it on the Jews. When really, we just mind our own business, and we're busy enough with our religions, like I told you, our do's and our don'ts, and it's not true. We didn't kill the Son of God. As a matter of fact, Jesus was born Jewish, and he also died Jewish. There was no Christianity until over a century later after he died, or maybe 40 or 50 years after he died, 30 years after he died. And there's a lot of hearsay and misinformation about it. It's false. And even if people still believe it's true, if they believe it's true, I think we've already paid the price enough until this very minute. Actually, I'll stop there.
Okay. What is the name of the Jew community you take part?
Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. It's much lighter. It's a good last 15th, 14th question. The name of the Jewish community which we take part, my ancestry is from Afghanistan. My family has been living there for 2,000 years until from this time of the destruction of the first temple in Jerusalem. We were exiled to Babylon, which is Iraq, and some went further east to Iran and then to Afghanistan, which is where we settled. And we've been in the Iran-Afghanistan region for 2,000 years until 50 years ago, where gradually they started leaving and going to Israel and coming to America. So we are an Afghan Jewish community. We're actually one of the smallest Jewish communities in the world. It's a very isolated community for all those millennia. And our synagogue, the name is Anshe Shalom, which means people of peace. It was actually founded by my mother's family 40 years ago in New York. Shalom was the name of my grandfather, and his children erected this temple, this synagogue in his memory, which is also a nice name, which means peace. And we are Sephardic Jews, Middle Eastern Sephardic Jews. I think that describes the community that I am a part of.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.